Hi, this is Brass Check, and today we're going to talk about some good news. And I know it might seem like we never relay good news, but you know, happy talk is not our business here. Our business is letting you know what's really going on and warning you about hazards in the world and things that we need to be aware of. But sometimes there is good news, and interestingly enough, just as bad news is very often censored, good news is very often censored, and for the same reason, and you're going to understand that in a second when I talk about what the good news is that's being censored. First, a little news on the Brass Check side. We've been doing a tremendous amount of health research in the last 8 months, and you've seen the videos, especially if you subscribe to some of our other channels, like Real Food, the Real Food channel, or Next World TV. And we're unwinding them bit by bit on Brass Check too. And we're coming through with some amazing information, just astonishing stuff. And we just did an extended interview with Dr. Stephanie Seneff of MIT, who has explained in really a lucid way why we are having the catastrophic epidemic of autoimmune diseases, largely in the United States and Canada and other countries that, well, you'll see why. You'll see why. In fact, let's get right to it. It's becoming clear that one of the sources of the catastrophic public health disaster that we're going through right now and have been for the last 20 years is a substance called a glyphosate. And that is the active ingredient of a product called Roundup. And a lot of people are aware of the connection between Roundup and GMOs, genetically modified organisms. And just for the history, Monsanto and other companies got involved in creating genetically modified organisms, not to feed the world, not to save the planet, not to bring justice to all, or any of the other bullshit they've been peddling. They got involved in the GMO business solely to create plants, crop plants, that are immune to glyphosate. That's why they went into that business. They had no other reason and no other motivation. They wanted, why did they go into that business? Because they wanted to sell a ton of glyphosate. What is glyphosate? Glyphosate is an herbicide, popularly known as a weed killer. It is the biggest selling weed killer on Earth now. It has been for quite a while. The U.S. uses, just like we do everything on a large scale, we have more people in prison than anybody else. We also use more glyphosate than anybody else to an extreme degree. Blood tests between Americans and Europeans show that the average American tested has 6 times the level of glyphosate in their blood as a European. We also have higher rates of Alzheimer's, higher rates of autism, higher rates of all kinds of diseases. And finally, the courts are discovering, wow, this stuff is toxic. Now, it wasn't that long ago that the mainstream news media was telling us that that Roundup was safe. There was even some guy on TV, a representative of Monsanto, who said that it's so safe you can drink it. I wish he had. Well, now that lie is over. Unfortunately, thank you, Fox, thank you, CNN, thank you, New York Times, thank you, Washington Post, for contributing in this lie and cover-up for decades. And now the truth is coming out. There have been some huge legal settlements for people who claim, and the courts agree, that they were given cancer by their exposure to Roundup, to glyphosate. And Monsanto, now owned by Bayer, is going to be on the hook for an astronomical amount of money because the suits are only just beginning. But glyphosate is not just a danger to the people that work with it, to gardeners and farmers. By the way, it's a horrendous danger to them. Carcinogenic, no question anymore. It also creates and contributes to a slew of other health and medical problems. And it does that in two ways, and we're going to get into that in an interview with Dr. Seneff in great depth. One, it destroys and deranges your gut flora. Now, I think everybody's aware that you put food in your mouth, you chew it, and you swallow it. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on. Some of it takes place in the stomach. Some of it takes place in the small intestine. Some of it takes place in the large intestine. What goes on in the intestines is of extreme importance to your health. That is where a lot of essential nutrients are manufactured, like all the B vitamins. If you're deficient in B vitamins, you will be sick. It also is the workshop. It's where all of your neurotransmitters are made. So dopamine, serotonin, melatonin. These things allow you to function mentally. And what glyphosate is designed to do is destroy the pathways in plants so that they can't function, they can't live, they can't persist, they die, right? So they develop the GMO varieties that are immune to glyphosate, and then all other plants. Glyphosate is a universal weed killer. It kills everything it touches except the GMO plants. Monsanto claimed that, it just kills plants. Animals and human beings don't have to worry because they have different biology. Well, that may be true, but the biology of the human gut and the biology of animal guts too is very similar to the biology of plants. In fact, it's identical. Some of the organisms that live in you, that digest your food for you, that convert them into useful substances, are functioning just as plants do. So, in fact, glyphosate and Roundup do injure human beings and injure them severely by destroying and deranging the gut flora that produces many of the substances that you need to be healthy and sound. So when the public will catch up with that fact, I don't know. We do know that, as usual, Fox and CNN and the New York Times and the Welsh, they're not doing anything to share this scientific information. But now here's the good news, and it's really, really, really good news, and it's strangely censored. In spite of the corporate censorship, which has been full press from all corners, every news outlet in America is culpable. They've all participated in the cover-up. They've all participated in the corporate propaganda. They've all participated in the lies, and they've done it for a decade plus. In spite of that censorship, cities and countries around the world are banning the use of glyphosate. Can you imagine that? Did you know this? I didn't. I had to stumble on it. Now, the good news is Los Angeles County, one of the biggest users of glyphosate in the nation. I mean, Los Angeles, has parks and highway systems and all kinds of things, and they were spraying glyphosate, nonstop, all over the place. And they have ordered a moratorium on the use of glyphosate-based herbicides, including, of course, Roundup. That's a big deal. Los Angeles is not known as a progressive, granola, earth-friendly place. Never has been, never will be, and they're big. And for them to step up and say, you know what, we're not using it anymore, that is amazing. But what's interesting is the list of places that is preceding at Los Angeles and now following Los Angeles is huge. And I'm just going to start reading a few of the places. Tucson, they have banned, they're saying they want organics used for controlling weeds on city property. Berkeley, well, of course, they want to minimize the use of pesticides entirely. Davis, California, which is owned by the agricultural industry, they've passed an ordinance saying they want to reduce pesticides. And some of their parks have banned glyphosate. We're just going through California, by the way. Long Beach, again, not a particularly progressive place politically. They have banned spraying Roundup. See, what's interesting here is now that there's a $280 million verdict against Monsanto, everybody who sprays glyphosate in a public place is now liable to a lawsuit. See how that works? Before these judgments, before these verdicts, Monsanto and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Fox and CNN and all the other professional liars could make it a controversy. It's a controversial thing. Or, in fact, they even said it's not controversial. Only lunatics and nuts question the safety of glyphosate and Roundup. Okay? Well, that game's over. The verdict is literally in. And all the legal departments of all the cities, and I venture to say some real estate managers who also spray a lot of glyphosate, and maybe even some ag companies. If you are a farm worker and you develop a disease because you've been handling glyphosate as part of your work, can you not go back to the farmer that hired you? And these days we're talking about a multinational conglomerate that hired you. Can you not go to that farmer with a lawsuit? So this is fantastic news. And if you go to the internet and search where is glyphosate banned, the number one thing that comes up is from a law firm of Baum, Hedlund, Aristi, and Goldman. Well, that's a tongue twister. And where is glyphosate banned? And if you do that search, they have created this handy-dandy list. Now, the rest of the world is way ahead of the U.S. on this. And I think American citizens need to know this. We are behind in so many public health areas, it's not even funny. In China, they have two production lines for everything they make. One production line is for Europe. And Europe's really clear. Hey, China, we're not buying your toxic crap. If you want to export stuff to our countries, it better pass stringent public safety controls. Okay? So China knows this. They know they're being watched. They know they can't pour toxins into all the products they manufacture that they try to sell in Europe. So they have a second line of production. If it's going to Europe, it's manufactured safely. Guess who gets the other line of production? The third world, of course, Africa, Latin America, and the United States. Okay, we are getting substandard products out of China, not because the Chinese are substandard manufacturers and don't know how to do any better. They know how to do better. They have the knowledge of how to do better. They have the methodology and the equipment of how to do better. But our government doesn't care. So we get the same substandard toxic crap that they're importing to the poorest of the poor third world countries. So anyway, Switzerland, their main food supermarkets have banned glyphosate products. You can't. You put glyphosate on something. You're known to spray something with glyphosate. You can't sell it in the big Swiss supermarket chains. That's a modern country. How about Sweden? Let's see. Yep, they're doing something similar. They're doing something similar, but not as strong, interestingly enough. But they're working on it. This site gives a point by point. Oh, by the way, here we go. Netherlands, not an unsophisticated country. They've banned all non-commercial uses of glyphosate. So it's not a full ban, right? But they're saying you can't spray it on your lawn at home anymore. Let's see who else is involved. Italy, which one of the healthiest countries in the world. They have restrictions on glyphosate use. They've also come out against relicensing glyphosate in the European Union. Think about that. So Bayer Monsanto currently has a license to sell glyphosate in Europe, and the whole entire European Union is looking at that license and thinking, maybe we're not going to relicense it. Even in India, the government of Punjab has banned the sale of glyphosate in the state. Greece has voted against relicensing glyphosate. Even France, which is, the guy running France couldn't be more pro-corporate, pro-banker than can't imagine a guy more that way. And even they're saying they're going to ban it outright in the next 3 years. El Salvador, little El Salvador, poor, controlled by the U.S., they are banning glyphosate because of links to kidney disease. This is what happens with the farm workers. They get it really hard. This is kind of funny. Colombia will no longer use glyphosate to destroy illegal cocaine plantations. They're concerned about the cancer risk. And even though Canada is like the UK and the US, completely under the thumb of chemical makers, 8 out of the 10 provinces have some kind of restriction on the use of glyphosate. Vancouver has banned the public and private use of glyphosate, aside from treating invasive weeds. But that's something. Brazil. New products. Okay, the old products are still being sold. New products, you're making a product with glyphosate, a new one can't be sold in Brazil. That's a big deal. Brazil is a huge agricultural powerhouse, and I'm sure they spray a ton of glyphosate. Little Bermuda has outlawed it. Belgium has banned private use. You can't use it on your garden or your lawn. And this is amazing. I'm really, it looks like, we thought that Monsanto was this unbeatable thug that had bought all the news media, and there was no possible way to get any kind of justice in dealing with them. Well, it looks like the dam has broken, and they don't have enough lawyers to fight this. Now, they may go to our Congress. There's still time for them to go to our corrupt pile of trash Congress and maybe get an amendment to the Constitution that it guarantees the right of glyphosate to be sprayed. Watch for that coming to a Congress near you soon, or some other similar lunacy. But it looks like this one, the horse is out of the barn on this one. And finally, even little Vietnam is going to ban glyphosate imports. So this is fantastic news, and the next thing that we need to do is educate people on how to deal with the glyphosate damage that has been done to them already, and is a universal problem. Some people have it much more severely than others, but we've all got it. Unfortunately, glyphosate mimics glycine. Glycine is an essential amino acid. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and we are made of protein, and we are continually rebuilding ourselves all the time. If we didn't, we would die or we would get ill. And what's happening from the best that we can tell, is that glyphosate is injecting itself into the protein synthesis process, and we are getting deranged proteins in our body. And that means organs that don't do what they're supposed to do: brain, liver, kidney, heart, you name it. And different people are being affected different ways depending on their own genetic predispositions. So there is a way to deal with this, and that is something that we are going to be providing the public with information about very shortly. So good news. Good news.